Hello and welcome to the Penalty Box Perspective podcast. My name is Nathaniel and I'm joined once again by my good friend Matt. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Nathaniel. Yeah, how are you? You all good?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I appreciate there's a slight delay to this podcast coming out as to what people might have expected from the last one. Just been dealing with a few personal issues, but that's sort of hopefully moving on from that now, and I'm ready to record this first recap episode of the first week of the NHL season, so I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's been a cracking start to the season. Really enjoyed it. Just loved it. There's been a lot of storylines unfolding already, sort of 4 games in. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this with you. Let's get to it.
Yeah. I think it's worth to touch upon sort of scheduling wise. We'll aim to have recap episodes out on Mondays, but due to obviously work shift schedules and things like that, it may be as late as a Wednesday, but it would be normally on a Monday, I would say. But
yeah, no, I think that's like you said. Couldn't put it better. We'll try to get these out on Monday. If for any reason it's not going to be out on Monday, or it'll be out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, as I have done this week, I'll keep you up to speed on our social media platforms as well. So you can find those at the PBP Podcast on both Instagram and X, where I'll be posting any updates on there regarding scheduling and anything like that. So do keep up with us there, we'll make sure that you're kept in the loop with when we're going to be dropping episodes.
Good stuff. I think before we start, we thought had covered all of these. I think it's time to say goodbye to NHL free agency. We've got quite a few more contracts to get to just to cover off. I don't propose we deep dive in great detail because they kind of were expected, I would say. But I think the main two are the new contracts for Jack Eichel at Vegas Golden Knights and Kyle Connor for the Winnipeg Jets. What do you make of those 8-year contracts?
Yeah, I think, like you say, I think we're moving into a particular period of time where we can kind of start to kiss free agency goodbye. I think in terms of the massive free agents that hit the open market and everything, it might sort of balance out again a few years down the road, sort of once the salary cap sort of balances out and whatnot. But just in the meantime, whilst it's going up at the rate that it is going up, teams are just going to have a lot more kind of cap space to be able to make these deals happen. So, Eichel signed at 8 by 13.5. Kyle Connor signed for 8 by 12. I think if you're the teams, so Vegas for Eichel and Winnipeg for Connor, I think you're thrilled at being able to get these contracts over the line. These are sort of the main contracts that these players are going to sign that are going to take them through to sort of the latter stages of their career. And I think being able to get them sealed for this kind of AAV is really fantastic business. I think especially Kyle Connor, 8 by 12. I'm sure he would have looked at what happened with Kaprizov in Minnesota and maybe thought that he could have, maybe upped that number a little bit. But I think when you look at that in comparison, 17 for Kaprizov and 12 for Connor, I think that Winnipeg will be very happy with the value they've got there. And the same with Vegas for Eichel, really premium player. 13.5, I think is a fantastic bit of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to bring up Kaprizov in sort of contrast to Connor, and though I'm still happy we have Kaprizov, that value is great for what Connor is in comparison to Kaprizov. He's a bit more reliable, he's banging in the goals. Is he as much of a star player, star name? Do they rely on him as much? Probably not, but I would have thought he would have pushed for a bit more there.
No, yeah, I think it's relative. If you were to ask me if I'd rather have Kaprizov or Connor, I would take Kaprizov, I think, every time. But I think sort of balancing out values, etc. You would have thought that Connor maybe could have got, maybe 13.5, sort of in the same sort of ballpark as Eichel, and equally, Eichel maybe could have gone for, 14 and a half. But yeah, I think that's the art of negotiation across the sport is still alive and well.
Yeah. The next big contract is for Montreal Lane Hudson, the defenseman there, he sort of signed in with the same group of sort of Lacombe, Luke Hughes, etc. 8.85 million a year for 8 years, which are a lot of eights there, quite confusing. But a great player, great signing as well for the Montreal, getting yet another mainstay youngster signed to a long-term contract. And I don't know whether you saw it online, but the video they posted of it being announced at practice, and they were chasing him around the ice and all celebrating together. I think that was a great video to watch.
Yeah, I did see that. It was a nice bit of content, and look, that is a fantastic piece of business as well. Like you said, there's been a lot of defensemen kind of this 8 year, kind of around 9 million, somewhere between 8 and 9 is kind of seeming to be where that number's going to drop. I think obviously we saw 9 for Hughes, we saw 9 for Lacombe, 8.85 for Lane Hudson, the reigning Calder Trophy winner. I think that's a fantastic piece of business. He's an absolutely electric defenseman. Obviously not a typical defensive defenseman, but what he provides going forward for that Montreal side, and the offense that he can generate, from the defensive zone moving through sort of the neutral zone, etc. He's absolutely fantastic. And like you said, it's another sort of core piece of that Montreal team that's locked up long term, and I think they're really going to look to sort of push on from here. And I think that there's probably been a bit of buy-in from Hudson there to maybe take a slightly lower amount in order to help make sure all those young guys get paid, because I was expecting Hudson to be sort of the leader of those. I was expecting him maybe to get sort of around 9.5. But yeah, they've settled at a really reasonable number, and yeah, that's fantastic news for Montreal.
And then the final two bits of business, both for the Oilers actually. Matthias Ekholm signed a 3-year, $4 million AAV contract, and Roslovic as well, signing for a 1-year, $1.5 million. Not great big names to shout about, but I think Oilers getting some business done to spending some of that money that McDavid's potentially saved them. Well, I guess more with Ekholm, Roslovic, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, signing Ekholm in the difference, you would have thought you'd have paid McDavid. Good business.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I think 3x4 for Ekholm is, I'd say that was kind of bang on market value really. He's not a number one defenseman, but he is a nice sort of depth defenseman on a contending team. And that's pretty much what those guys cost, sort of in and around that $4 million mark. So, they'll be, like you said, they've more or less put that Ekholm money into, from that discount from McDavid. Nice little piece of business there. And then Jack Roslovic, who was still a free agent, still hadn't signed with the team. Seemed as though he was going to kind of wait and weigh up his options. And 1 year, $1.5 million with the Oilers. He'll be a depth centre there, but has an opportunity basically to again be a nice depth forward on a contending team. And as far as that role goes, I really like Roslovic for that role. So nice little bit of business there for the Oilers to get that tied up.
Shall we get into some hockey then?
Oh yes.
Oh yes. So this week we've decided to shake things up a bit. We've been leading off with the Vegas Golden Knights and in the Pacific Division, but we're going to flip sides this time and start with the Atlantic Division and the Eastern Conference. Now, what's quite interesting actually is the first place team currently in the Atlantic Division is the 29th power ranked team Boston Bruins, who lead with 6 points. They played 4 games this week, winning 3 and losing 1, with a +4 across those games. They notified big wins against the Capitals and Sabres, winning 3-1 in both of those games, before playing sort of tighter games against the Lightning, losing 4-3, and beating your Blackhawks in overtime for 4-3 win. What are your thoughts about the Bruins start for the season?
Yeah, I think we all expected they'd maybe have a bit of a bounce back this year, but they've come out the gates flying. They've maybe not had the toughest opening schedule in comparison to some of the other teams. But, Zaka and Pasternak both kind of putting up 5 points. I think that's especially important for Pasternak. You want your star players to be your star players. So yeah, great start there for them. Lindholm with a couple of power play goals and a couple of assists so far, and Geeky as well, getting on the board with some goals and assists as well. They've, like you said, all their games have been quite tight. So far, they've just had enough to kind of edge out the other teams. You could be looking at this on another flip of the coin, and potentially the Bruins have, 1 point or 2 points from those opening 4 games, but they've been able to sort of get over the line, and yeah, really good start for them. So long may it continue.
Yeah, I think Swayman's had a great start to the year and great bounce back after sort of a down year last year. Obviously, they've swapped in net quite a few times with Korpisalo, so it's it's to see if it continues these close games. You can see great teams coming from teams who can grind out wins, but likewise it can easily flip the other way, and you'll be on the losing end of close games as well, and it all evens out. But yeah, you can't complain with being first overall in the Atlantic Division after the first week for the Bruins.
No, absolutely, good start.
So the second place team in the Atlantic Division also is on 6 points, but with a slightly less plus minus, is the Montreal Canadiens, who are our 15th team in our power rankings. They again post a record of 3 wins and 1 loss. Again, similarly, they've got 2 wins in regulation, beating the Red Wings 5-1, the Blackhawks 3-2, both away from home, before beating the Kraken in overtime in their home opener, but did lose their first game 5-2 to the Maple Leafs in the first game of the season. Now, personally, I think the Canadiens have started extremely well. They're a dynamic, young, fast team, and they've shown that they've got that promise. Obviously, they lost to the Maple Leafs, and we'll get onto them in due course, but I think, again, maybe against some slightly weaker opposition in the Red Wings, Blackhawks and Kraken, but I think they've started just how they mean to go on. I think they're going to do well.
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say that the Canadiens, they play a very sexy brand of hockey. I think, they're fast, they're, like you said, they're dynamic, they're very sort of front foot. Suzuki's come flying out the gates with 6 points in the first 4 games. Caulfield's getting amongst the goals, Baldock's getting amongst the goals. Demidov has finally got his first goal, and he's picked up a couple of assists as well. So everyone's favourite for the Calder Trophy this year. I will say he was absolutely absent in the game against the Blackhawks, but we'll ignore that. They got the win. They have been they've been fantastic so far. Really, really impressive start, and I think they're going to be one of the most entertaining teams in the league this year, I think. They'll hope to kind of carry on that run. They are a young team. They will have periods of time over the season where they kind of stumble their way through a few games, and they might go on a little bit of a down streak at some points, but never hurts to come out the gates at the start of the season looking good, looking fresh, looking ready to go, and that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, it's important is that they're healthy as well. They got their full squad how they want it, and their upcoming schedule, they've also got a fairly weak lineup that got a 3-game home stretch against the Predators, Rangers and Sabres before travelling away to the Calgary Flames. Now, not to ruin a surprise, but a couple of those teams aren't doing too well so far, so they'll be looking to probably do the same again in these next set of games, get out to a sort of a 6-2 start potentially for the Canadiens, I'd say, for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you look at those 4 games coming up, 8 points available. I think they'll be wanting at least 5. I think that would be a fair representation, I think, and that'll be what they're hoping for, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to cover off on the games, I watched the first 2 quite closely. The 5-2 loss against the Maple Leafs. They've conceded 2 empty net goals trying to get it back when it went 3-2 down sort of the later end of the third period, so it kind of looks a bit more blowout than it was. It was a close game, that one. And then against the Red Wings, they scored 5 goals on 17 shots and then conceded 1 on 31, so you could say it was quite lucky in a sense, but if you actually watched it and watched the goals, they were very good goals to get.
Yeah, no, I saw the highlights of all of them, and yeah, they've got a real clinical nature in the way that they attack, and they really can make the most of the opportunities that they do create. So, yeah, they've been great. Our third placed team in the division, our pre-season ranked first team, the Florida Panthers. No Barkov, no problem. 6 points from the first 4 games, with wins against the Blackhawks, Flyers and Senators. They did fall to a 5-2 loss against the Flyers, which I think may have been a little bit of a surprise. But with this team, as you know, obviously they lost Barkov and Kachuk. We've covered that sort of extensively, and we mentioned that it was going to require a few of those other players to step up. One of those being Anton Lundell, who has absolutely done that. 2 goals, 2 assists straight out the gate, and Sam Reinhart as well with 2 goals and an assist as well. Seemingly, they're playing gritty. They're playing Stanley Cup champion hockey. They're just showing their class when they need to. It's not always going to be pretty, but it's going to get them over the line. What are your thoughts on the Panthers' start to the season and how they're looking so far?
They seem somewhat inevitable. Like they show the weaknesses on a game-by-game basis, but just seem to overcome them in the game. Like every game seems like a playoff game to them. Hoping they'll not get any more injuries and they grind it out for their sake. But like the key players who you're wanting to stand up and make themselves known are doing so. Bobrovsky's doing great in goal. They do have a tough slate coming up, I guess. Toughish slate. 4 away games. The Red Wings, Devils, Sabres and Bruins. Again, it's sort of kind of like the Canadiens, where I'd expect them to get 5 or 6 points from these upcoming games. But I just think they are playing championship hockey again already.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think 4 points at a minimum, maybe 5 or 6 would be ideal but a 4-game road stretch is always quite tricky. They're just everyone's kind of stepping up, and you're seeing that across the team, and they'll hope that they can carry that on. But equally, they don't want to be playing every single game like it's Game 7 of the Cup final, because that's just not sustainable in the long run. So hopefully they'll kind of mellow out a little bit and kind of settle into the season a bit more.
Yeah. Now, what is an interesting and somewhat exciting team, 4th in the Atlantic Division, 8th in our power rankings, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've scored 4 points in their 4 games, with a winning 2 and losing 2, with a +2, +-. If you're looking for sort of high-scoring games, Toronto is the place to be in the moment. They've got so many players high up on the scoring charts. But yeah, you just see goals. They beat the Habs 5-2, then they lost to the Red Wings in 2 games, 6-3 and then 3-2, before then beating the Predators 7-4. So, other than good attack and bad defence, what do you see out of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I see William Nylander and Matthew Nyes carrying my fantasy team at the moment. That's what I see. 7 points for Nylander and 6 for Nyes at the moment. They're coming in clutch for me at the moment and keeping my team afloat. But yeah, like I said, I think they're kind of we knew this, didn't we, with Toronto, that they are, when they've got such quality offensive players. And, they've got Nylander and they've got Nyes, and Matthews has already kind of got 3 goals on the season as well. And Tavares, I know we were discussing before the season started about whether he was going to be able to sort of maintain his output. Obviously, he's a bit older now, and was he going to be one who kind of maybe stepped into the fold a little bit with with Marner going? And I think between Tavares and Nyes, they've elevated for sure. And Tavares has had a really nice start to the season. Nyes is someone who, Toronto are just going to absolutely fall in love with, more than they already have. He's going to be an absolutely spectacular player. But yeah, their games are going to be a little bit of a a little bit of a roll of the dice at the moment. It seems as though they could be blown out or blow out the opposition. One thing that I did find interesting was across their 4 games that they've played so far, Anthony Stolarz has been in goal for all of them, or certainly started in goal for all of them. Obviously, there isn't any sort of timeline on the Joseph Woll return, but I did think that was interesting that he has started each game. I would have thought they would have maybe got a rotation in there. I know they had Primo. He dropped in on one of their games, didn't they?
Yeah. But I think what's important to consider is that when we're saying each game is sort of a blowout, there's lots of goals being conceded. You look at Stolarz's save percentage, and it isn't awful. At the minute, across the 4 games, it's at .886, which obviously is below that 900 mark that you'd want to see out of like a decent keeper. But to me, that seems like that it's more on their defence to getting lots of shots away. This high volume shots, so goals are going in, etc. So I think, though they're getting points, and there's a few defensemen on their top scorers, like Riley, who's I think's had a great start to the season on the blue line, Ekman Larsson, like they need a bit more solidity in their top 6.
Yeah, and that sometimes comes down to more to style and how a team's actually going to line up. I know sometimes teams will focus themselves defensively on sort of collapsing into the centre of the ice when a team has it sort of around the blue line to try and get a lot of block shots in there. Obviously, that doesn't contribute then to shots on goal, but sometimes they would rather sort of cover the players and sort of leave the centre of the ice open so that the goalie gets a good look at it. Because if you do have a load of guys sort of blocked up around the centre of the ice, it can sort of take away the vision from the goalie. So, I mean, I haven't watched every single Maple Leafs game, and so I'm not a hockey tactician by any means. So, I'm not sure how their defence lines up. But yeah, I think you would like to think as they move into their next few games that maybe they get a little bit more from their blue line. They have got a nice little 3-game home stretch now. They've got the Rangers, the Kraken, and the Devils. So not a super easy stretch of games, but I think certainly at home, again, I think 2 wins out of 3. I think they'll be more than happy with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to rule out the Maple Leafs just yet. I think they'll have a solid year. I think Matthews is in with a shout of being at the top of the point standing come season end, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Now, the perennial 5th place team in the Atlantic Division, I think, at the 23rd ranked Detroit Red Wings. So you look at the Detroit Red Wings start of the season. They had a game against the Habs at home, and then they did a home-away trip for the Maple Leafs. And even though I just took a little shot at them, if you think they come out with 4 points from those 3 games, you think that's actually a pretty good start for the Red Wings. And I think they'd be happy with how things have gone. They lost obviously against the Habs 5-1, but then won both their games against the Maple Leafs. What we'll say is when I watched a game against the Habs, the arena looked extremely empty. I don't know what was going on, whether there was a mass rush to get another pint in or something, but the arena just looked completely empty. It was a weak performance at the start of the season. I think a lot of that may come down with the goaltender, which is the big thing from what I noticed in that game. Gibson with a 705 save percentage. Any shots that Montreal took were just going in. I just felt bad for the guy.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a tricky start to the season as he got shelled in that first game. Obviously their first game was on a Friday night. I don't know if there was an NFL game on with the Lions playing or anything like that. No, they're just no one's interested in going and watching the Red Wings. That's fair enough. But yeah, I think what's been one of the standouts, I think, for Detroit is they have gone quite young with some of their some of their players, particularly Sandin Pellikka, who's played on the blue line, has looked really nice at the start of the season.
He has.
I've really liked watching him play. But that Kane and DeBrincat line again has been coming up trumps. I mean, it pains me to see him play for Detroit, but it's really nice to see Kane. Like he has those moments where you look like you've jumped back 10 years in a time capsule with Patrick Kane's release, and he's still got the hands, he's still got the shot. Doesn't necessarily have the speed, but he's in his late 30s now, so he isn't going to. But really nice to see him still being productive. And after he had that hip resurfacing injury, and he had the surgery for that, there was a whole load of stuff about analysing players who've also had that kind of surgery, and how so often they never come back and play usually, or they do come back and they maybe get sort of 20-30 games in and they go, yeah, no, I can't hack this. But Kane is shown that he's still got it, and that makes me really happy. So decent start for Detroit. They've got a 3-game home stretch against the Panthers, the Lightning and the Oilers, which is, I mean, that is rough. That is a rough 3-game home stretch. They'll be hoping they can get something out of there. But if it all goes to pot, they've got a road game against the Sabres, so I'm sure that'll help soothe their injured souls. It's been exactly the kind of start to the season for Detroit that I would have expected. So yeah, nothing much further on them from me.
No. Right, the next team is our 7th power ranked team, currently in 6th place in the Atlantic with 3 points to Tampa Bay Lightning, who've potentially had a bit of a weaker start as to what they were hoping for. A record of 1 win, 2 losses and an overtime loss as well. -3 on the plus minus. They've lost games against the Senators, the Devils and then the Capitals in overtime, each sort of by a goal or 2 each, and then won against the Bruins by a goal. So a lot of close games for the Tampa Bay Lightning, kind of opposite of the Bruins in the fact that they're getting on the wrong end of the losses there. But what I will say is for the Lightning is all their players that you'd expect to be getting points and performing well are doing so. Braden Point, Jake Guntzel, Kucherov, Cirelli, they're all getting up there in the points, sort of points per game kind of region to start the year, which is good for them. But I just think it's a bit of a sluggish start. I'm not in panic stations yet for the Lightning by any means, but yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And this is exactly what I was talking about with the Bruins is, you've got the Bruins on one side of the coin, you've got the Lightning on the other. Sometimes you just do go through these stretches where, they've, like say, a 5-4 loss to the Senators, a 5-3 loss to the Devils, a loss in overtime to the Capitals. Sometimes it just goes that way. But like you said, we're still getting a really nice, productive, point output from all the guys who you would expect, which is I think what they would like. I think what they would like maybe is a little bit more kind of solid goaltending from Vasilevsky. He's maybe not been quite as elite as he usually is. But like I couldn't agree more with you. I'm not in panic stations for Tampa. I'm not panicking about them. I'm sure they'll start to get on the right side of that coin and things will start to balance out. Little just completely kind of trivial stat tidbit is so far across all of these games, Victor Hedman has had the hardest shot in the NHL with 99.8 miles an hour. So an absolute rocket from Hedman, as you would expect. But yeah, it's
how much money would you want? How much money would it take for you to stand in front of that shot?
Do I have full protective gear on?
You have what a normal player would have on. You haven't got any bulletproof armour on, mate.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, God, it would have to be a solid amount. I think I'm not going to be moving very well after, if I was to get in the way of one of those. Jesus, that's yeah. No, I'm good. I don't think I need a piece of frozen rubber hitting me at nearly 100 miles an hour. That just sounds brutal. It depends where it's hitting me as well. They've got themselves a little road trip against the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets. So coming up, so hopefully they'll think they can get a win or maybe two on the board. But yeah, I'm not concerned about the Lightning at all. I think they'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. Now, the next team, the 7th team in the Atlantic Division, 17th in our power rankings at this moment, the Ottawa Senators. We touched on them briefly against the Lightning in that war that they had. They played 3 games against away at the Lightning, away at Panthers, and then at home against the Predators. And looking at that schedule going in, I would have thought they would have had 1 win and 2 losses. That's exactly what they've come out with, but obviously they won against the Lightning and lost against the Predators, which is the other way around to what I'd expect. But they have posted a -6 on those 3 games, which is quite concerning. And obviously, a big news coming out of the Senators in the past day or so is the injury to Brady Tkachuk.
That gets you every time, doesn't it?
It gets me every time. I can say it in my head, I can hear it.
It's like your mouth just doesn't want to move that way.
It does.
Yeah, that's a rough one, isn't it? I think mid-November, I think he's due to be back, missing about a month, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's about a month they've said. Well, about 4 weeks, but they still haven't decided if he's going to need or want surgery on it, which could... Obviously, it's just a matter when you're thinking surgery, you're thinking nightmare scenario. But I didn't actually catch it, how he got it, but I think I saw a clip, it happening sort of like a stick infraction, like quite an obvious, like not a hockey play one. He just got wrapped on the hand.
Yeah.
And that's what set him out.
Yeah, it's those Tkachuks, man. And then that's the thing. It's the risk and reward. I mean, they are both such fantastic players. They play hard. They play physical. They play exactly like their dad did, but just with kind of a bit more skill. But they are guys who are going to pick up injuries because of the way that they do play. But that's a massive blow for the Senators to lose them for, even if it is going to be 4 or 5 weeks, you just don't want that happening at the start of the season, and just you wouldn't want it to, to derail their, their start to the year. Tkachuk's had a really good start as well with, he's been at a point per game, 3 assists across those 3 games. So yeah, that'll be a big loss. Really good start for Shane Pinto as well. 4 goals and an assist across those first 3 games. Yeah, really good. It's nice to see him kind of step up. I like Shane Pinto. He's a good player.
He is, and Zub as well has had a good start. Ullmark looking shaky start in the first couple of games, but really pulled it together against the Predators. Despite conceding 4, he was all over the place. Making saves left, right, centre. So I think hopefully he's on the turnaround and he's making the improvement on his game there. But they've got a fairly nice stretch of games coming up. They're away at Buffalo and then at home against the Kraken, Islanders, and then the Oilers. So again, we're looking at sort of the 4 or 5 point mark. Personally, I'd say that is what we would want to get from the Senators. From there,
I think that's about right. And we'll just have to see if Pinto can keep it rolling, if the team can step up with with Tkachuk's injury. But yeah, they do at least have a reasonable sort of run to try and get some points on the board.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about this team. The league's punching bag, I think. The Buffalo Sabres. Bottom of their division, 3 games, 3 losses, no hope, not a positive play. No player has more than 1 point on this team. I think the best player on this team in a minute is their keeper, who is scoring a decent save percentage. But they're just getting hammered. They lost to the Rangers 4-0, they lost to the Bruins 3-1, and then to the Avalanche 3-1. And okay, they might be teams at the sort of higher end of the league, but there's just even Tage Thompson's coming out saying how it's only the start of the season. There's plenty of time to change and get better yet. I'm like, we've heard this story for so long. I'm just bored of it already. It's 1 week in, and I'm sick of the Buffalo Sabres already.
Yeah. And this is it, isn't it? It's like, the Sabres are the league's punching bag, and everyone goes, oh, everyone constantly mocks the Sabres and this, that, and the other. And it's like, change our minds then. Like, they are just so bad. They, I did you? I don't know if you saw the interview with Lindy Ruff. I think it was after the Rangers game, or it might have even been after the Bruins game, where he said it was like one of the worst applications of effort he's ever seen. And it's like, okay, that's a great start, a couple of games into the season, but just try and do literally anything at this point. But, you saw Darlene and Thompson come out last season saying that, basically things need to get better and they need to get better next season, sorry. But, they do have a role to play in that as well. But if it keeps going like this for the Sabres, what are they going to trade Darlene? Like, are they going to trade Thompson? Surely not. But you say surely not, but we've seen them do this time and time and time again. A rough start for them. I agree with you. The Rangers, Bruins, and the Avalanche. It's not like the world's easiest opening run of games, but it's just rough. But it's
I caught the main game for the Rangers, and there's a 4-0 loss, and the Rangers was just playing time with them. They had so many breakaways, did the Sabres, against the Rangers. And yes, okay, Shesterkin's had a great start to the season, but it's like they did not appear threatening on any breakaway. They were like 2-on-0s against the keeper, and he couldn't fucking score. And I'm really sorry for swearing, but it was just infuriating. You'd see him go away, and they're like, right, how are they going to mess this one up then? Like, they're taking shots, and it's just going past the net, and it's just, I couldn't... If you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, how are you doing? Do you need help? If you need someone to talk to, it won't be me, because I can't be bothered to talk about the Sabres anymore, but you need to speak to somebody. Yeah,
please do speak to someone. Or please find a hobby or something that you can do, like, after the game's finished, that you're not just sat there stewing on it. Like, go fishing, build birdhouses, whatever it is that you need to do to just, it's just... But then, if Buffalo continue down this trajectory and they have another sort of horrendous season, what are you going to do? Give them another first overall pick? I'm not even sure Gavin McKenna could pull the Sabres out of this, to be honest. But that would be league-wide depressing. It's just, and we did it at the start of the when we did our draft coverage. That the infamous picture of Radim Mertka. That picture is doing the rounds on social media after every single game. Of just how depressing this Buffalo team is to watch. But yeah, they've got the Senators, the Panthers, the Habs, and the Red Wings in their next four. Do you see any wins there?
You'd think law of averages. I'm going to give them one. I would likely say the Senators, just with the Kachuk injury, nailed it. But other than that, the Panthers, they don't have any grit. Panthers going to stomp all over them. The Habs are too young. They're the opposite team to the Sabres, young with promise. And the Red Wings, okay. The Red Wings are kind of like the eBaying compared to Wish for the Sabres. They're kind of the same sort of realm, but they are just a little bit better. So no, I'm gonna give them one, but I think that's generous.
Yeah. I mean, the law of averages would dictate that they have to win one of them. A puck has to bounce off of, Tage Thompson's cheeks or something, and go in the net. Hopefully something happens there. But you watch it. I mean, we know how hockey works at this point. They'll beat the Panthers 4-0 or something like that, and because that's just the way that hockey seems to work at times. It has the knack to be a
because Panthers have 4D men because they're all getting injured.
Yeah. God, right.
So shall we move on?
Yeah, before we start crying, we'll move into the Metro. So the team leading the Metro at the moment with a rocket start to the season is the Carolina Hurricanes. 3 games, 3 wins, 6 points. Victories against the Devils, the Flyers, and the Sharks. So again, quite a reasonable kind of opening slate. But they've done well. Cracking start to the season for Seth Jarvis, Taylor Hall as well, sort of holding it down in the bottom 6. Yeah, really good start for them. And they've been exciting. Your thoughts on the Hurricanes, Nathaniel?
They are what we kind of expected them to be, I think. I do think Metro's probably going to be sort of the weakest division out of all 4 this year. And I think the Carolina and Hurricanes are in a good position to stomp all over everyone. Solid start. Again, lots of players getting lots of different points, comfortable wins. I mean, the game against the Devils was fun to watch. They managed just to eke out the sort of the breaking goal, which sort of broke the Devils' hearts a little bit, which allowed them to come out with that win. But yeah, I think very solid team. I mean, you look at the stats for Andy Anderson, and you might want a bit better performance out of him. But really, we're just picking at things there. If a team wins every single game and has a plus-minus of +8 after 3 games, you can't really tell them or expect them to do any more, really.
No, yeah, completely agree. I think that's kind of nail on the head, really. Cracking start for them. Nice kind of dominant win over the Sharks as well. Brandon Bussey with a nice game in that one as well. 941 save percentage. He was a nice kind of claim from the Florida Panthers in the summer, just to add a bit of goalie depth. I think, like you said, I think this division is set up for Carolina to tear it apart this year, I think.
Yeah, they've got a away stand now, going to the Ducks, the Kings and the Golden Knights, so a bit of trip west for them next week. I think this is the ultimate litmus test for them. 3, in my mind, very solid teams. It wouldn't surprise me if they do come out with at least 2 wins from this, but I think this is a good... They had sort of a medium range set of games to start the season, and now they've got into sort of the higher end now. What are they made of? I think they'll come out really well, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
So we'll go into the second place team in the Metro, and the team who won it last year. 14th in our power rankings, the Washington Capitals. Played 4 games. They won 3 of them and lost 1. Now, again, I think they're could be summarised as a very solid, good team, grinding out good results. Protas getting 3 goals, 2 assists, and Wilson with the flip with 2 goals, 3 assists, leading their scoring charts, and getting good goaltending as well from both Thompson and Lindgren. So, what are your thoughts about the Capitals? I don't really feel that there's much really personally to say about them, but you might.
No, I think the main key point has been no goals for Alex Ovechkin so far. I know he was my outside candidate for the Rocket Richard this year. That could already be in the water. I think they kind of started how you would have expected them to start. Nice for Charlie Lindgren to get a shutout in the win against the Rangers. I think they'll be really happy with that. They've got a nice little home stretch now against the Wild, the Canucks, and the Kraken coming up. So. I could see potentially another 3 to 4 points coming in on those. That'll be a good game against the Wild. I'm looking forward to that one. It'll be a really good watch. I think they're kind of defaulting to type, I think. Yeah.
I mean, last year they exceeded everyone's expectations, and this year everyone's kind of sort of had them, including myself, for sort of, right, let's bring them back down to where they should be. I still think they're actually they're performing better than to what I would expect them to perform, and that's no slight on the Capitals either. So I think 3 or 4 points is what we're looking at in the next 3 games. Hopefully the game they drop is against the Wild. But with that, then we'll move into the next team. I think this is quite a polarising team with their start of the season. The New York Rangers, who...
Weirdest start to the season.
So the third, they have played one game more than everybody else. They played 5 games, got 4 points from them. They are 12th in our power rankings, but they've won 2 and lost 3 with a +3 plus minus.
Could
you want to explain that one to me? Yeah.
Well, there must be some sort of poltergeist or something around Madison Square Garden at the moment, because they have played 3 games at home. They have been shut out in every single game at home. They are yet to score a goal this season at the Garden. They opened the year with a 3-0 loss to the Penguins, which I think that scoreline looks worse than it was. I know the Penguins banked a couple of empty netters at the end of the game. Then they followed that up with a 4-0 win against the Sabres, which, not surprising really. But they then went to Pittsburgh and absolutely demolished the Penguins 6-1. Before a couple of home games against the Capitals and the Oilers, which again they were shut out in both of them. With that in mind, Igor Shesterkin has had an absolutely fantastic start to the season. He's been fantastic. One shutout in the back pocket already, and staying up there with he's got a .972 save percentage at the moment, which is ridiculous. Really, really good, and it's nice for them to have a veteran backup in Jonathan Quick as well. Yeah, really, really strange. Really strange. They've got a couple of road games coming up against the Maple Leafs and the Habs before returning home to play the Minnesota Wild. So that's a really tough 3 games coming up. I think they would like to have had maybe another win on the board already. But yeah, I think the Rangers are, if they can figure out how to get the goals going, then I think that they'll be fine. It just needs to click for them. Adam Fox has had a nice start to the season. JT Miller, kind of as captain as well, as 3 points in 5 games. He's doing fine. They'll be hoping they can get a couple of wins in this next week.
Yeah, I think it's mainly their forward core that's struggling here. The top scorer is the D-man, Adam Fox. They got a keeper who's playing out of his skin. They're being shut out. I just think, how much are they missing Vinny Trocheck at the minute? Who's out week to week with an injury. Sort of left the game quite ominously. Not much news has been sort of shared about what he's exactly dealing with. But I just think they need to get going. To be shut out in 3 games out of the 5. They must be pulling their hair out. It must be either a fluke or something seriously flawed with this team. I'd be thinking it's more sort of a fluky, weird start to the season. But after last year's disappointment, they thought they would have come out a bit more firing, ready to go, rather than be more defensive. But maybe that's what Sullivan's doing, is concentrating on defence, and then hopefully the attack will come to them.
Yeah, I would say so. All I would say is if there's anyone sort of in the New York area who wanted to go to Madison Square Garden to watch a Rangers game, tickets are probably never going to be cheaper than they are at the moment. I imagine there's quite a few people selling those on because they don't want to go watch them at the moment at home. So yeah, go and find a ticket and go watch a Rangers game. But sitting below the New York Rangers at the moment, in the 4th place in the division, is the New Jersey Devils. Now they've played 3 games, 2 wins and a loss. Very sort of reasonable start to the season. Those wins coming against the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets, with the loss coming against the Carolina Hurricanes, which I don't think is it's not too much of a problem. They are yet to have played a game at home. They've started entirely on the road this year, so I think all things considered, with how that first week's gone, I think they'd take that.
Yeah, I think they would. Again, our summary of them going into the season was they're quite fragile, a bit shaky, and I still get that impression now. None of the wins were convincing, I'd say. Markstrom's not been doing that good in goal. He started every game. And Allen's come in some of them and done better. But Luke Hughes coming in with 4 assists, Bratt with 2 goals, 2 assists. I think they're good, but I feel like it could fall down at any minute still. I need to see them toughen up a little bit. I mean, they're coming up against 2 home games after a 3-game away trip to start the year, and now at home against the Panthers and the Oilers, who are just dominant sort of steamrolly type teams if they get going, and then they're away at the Maple Leafs. It's an extremely tough start for the season for the Devils. If they can come out at sort of 500 at the back end of these next 3 games, I think they'll consider themselves sort of lucky. But I equally wouldn't be surprised if they lose every single one of these next 3 games, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it's a tough schedule, like you said, and I think for that reason, I don't think that they'll be panicking. I think they would like to try and get a win. It'll be interesting to see how they look at home. Obviously, we haven't been able to see them do that yet this year. But if they can come out with 3 wins, 3 losses from those first 6 games, I think factoring in the teams they've had to play, I think that's pretty reasonable. But again, the guys who you would like to have seen play well, maybe barring sort of Jack Hughes, maybe he hasn't quite got firing yet, but 4 points for Bratt, 4 assists for Luke Hughes, and Timo Meyer and Dawson Mercer both on 3 points as well as Nico Hischier. Really nice to see Luke Hughes. Obviously, I know he had that surgery over the summer. He got everything sorted with his contract. It's nice to have seen him come out and it's kind of starting the season well. So hopefully, he can stay healthy and carry that blue line as best he can. And he's being paid like as of next season, he'll be getting paid like a number 1 defenseman. So he needs to go out there and be a number 1 defenseman, and he's doing pretty well at the moment.
Good stuff. So going to our 5th place team in the Metro, our 30th ranked team. A bit of a surprising start especially in the first 2 games. The Pittsburgh Penguins, who came out and beat the Rangers 3-0 in that kind of a close-ish game before beating the Islanders 4-3, and then sort of falling back more towards the mean. They lost 6-1 against the Rangers, and then they lost against the Ducks 4-3. What we got from the Penguins, though, is production from their high-quality players. Sort of Malkin with 6 assists, Crosby's coming in with 4 points across. Justin Brazeau, the ex-Wild 4th liner, coming in with 4 goals.
Yeah.
Weird. But yeah, coming out with decent keeping as well. In the first 2 games for their wins. When the keeping's fallen off, they tend to have lost.
Yeah, I would say so. Seelov's obviously started the year with a shutout, and then he kind of got hammered in that Rangers game in the 6-1 loss a little bit. But yeah, I mean, what a start to the season for Evgeny Malkin. 6 assists in 4 games. I know he hasn't scored yet, but really, really fantastic. And I know we've done a previous episode on what a rebuild's going to look like for with the Penguins, and I think let's not get too romantically attached to Malkin at Pittsburgh. I think 6 assists to start the season. I think all that's doing is jacking up his trade value, and that's going to be that's just going to be more beneficial for Pittsburgh in the long-term picture. But yeah, I think a pretty reasonable start for them, to be honest. Probably better than they were expecting. I think they're sort of due to get McGrody back shortly as well, and Hayes and Rust as well. So hopefully if they can get a bit healthier, that'll be some nice additions back into the team. They're going on a little bit of a California road trip. They're already out there with having played the Ducks yesterday. They've now got the Kings and the Sharks coming up before they return home to play the Vancouver Canucks. So they've been gritty so far of the Penguins, but I think they've done quite well.
Yeah, I will say that game against the Islanders was absolutely insane. Great hockey game. Really close, great chances, decent hits, like everything you could ask for in a game of hockey, I think, in that Islanders game. So shout out to the Penguins and the Islanders for 2 teams you probably wouldn't have put for a great game, but that was a fantastic game to watch.
Yeah, agreed. So, sticking in Pennsylvania, but moving down another position in the rankings, in the 6th place in the division at the moment, our 25th ranked team going into the season in our power rankings, the Philadelphia Flyers. They have a 1-1-1 record for 3 points. A loss to the Panthers at the start of the season, a 2-1 loss there before a loss to the Hurricanes in overtime. Before then, a home game against the Panthers, which they won 5-2. So I think, again, a bit of a strange season. Tough opening start. But yeah, I think I think 3 points from those first from those first 3 games. Sorry, I think Flyers fans will feel all right with that.
Yeah, I certainly feel good about the Flyers after the opening 3 games. You're going against the Stanley Cup champions twice, and also obviously the Hurricanes, who I think are a great team this year. And you come out with 3 points. You can't ask for more than that after last year. Vladar in goal played absolutely insane, out of his mind. I think this is a good, solid team. I think they'll be moving. I don't think they'll be quite playoff caliber team, the Flyers, this year, but they're definitely better than they were last year. They got a 3-game home stretch coming up against the Jets, the Wild, and the Kraken. So again, another sort of tough set of 3 games. I think they're going to be all right this year.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, really. I don't think they're playoff ready. I think they will be better than they were last year, and it's just a case of kind of slowly but surely moving their way up. So, yeah, a decent start for the Flyers, I think.
Yeah. Now, a team who've sort of, I guess, been a victim of close losses. 7th place, having played 3 games, the Columbus Blue Jackets, 21st in our power rankings. They've won against my Wild, 7-4. I say that's bloated with a few empty net goals at the end. But then losing the other 2 games against the Predators and the Devils, both 2-1 in regulation. So quite a tightly fought few games for the Blue Jackets. Again, I'm not panicking yet with them. Marchenko's coming with 4 goals. Voronkov's doing well as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Blue Jackets?
Yeah, they've been very unlucky, especially in that loss to the Predators. They had that goal ruled out for the goalie interference call, and it's such a strange rule. I don't think anyone quite knows what goalie interference is anymore. Kind of in the same way of in like the handball rule in football. People just don't seem to know what it is anymore. Same with goalie interference. Really unlucky there. I think they'll have been frustrated to have come out with nothing against the Predators, but yeah, Marchenko sort of rattling the goals in already, and they've got a nice goalie tandem going with with Merzlikins and Jet Greaves as well. Really tricky run coming up. They've got home games against the Avalanche and the Lightning before they go away to Dallas and play the Stars. So potentially, they could end up being 6 games in with not a lot to show for it in the point standings, but I think if they just keep playing the way that they have been playing at the moment, I think they will maybe get a bit of a surprise win in there. But yeah, I think it showed against the Wild that they can score. I know it kind of seemed that everything they were firing on the net seemed to find a way in. I know they got a couple of empty netters as well, but at least they are showing they can put the puck in the net, which you're never going to win games if you can't do that. So it gives them a little bit of something to cling on to, I think.
Yeah, I think when they start playing the games against their own division, I think that's when we'll see their quality come out a bit more. Obviously, being a weaker division, I think they're going to be up there and with playoff shouts come the end of the year. But yeah, we'll move on to another winless team, the New York Islanders, bottom of the Metro, 0 points, 24th in our power rankings, but not much really to see from the Islanders so far. Obviously, they played a great game against the Penguins, which I'll give them props to. They lost that one 4-3, but then they lost to Capitals 4-2, and then to the Jets 5-2. And when you got Matthew Schaefer leading the scoring with Palmieri for the Islanders, you've had a bit of a rocky start to the year. I think Sorokin's had a poor start as well, but yeah. What are your thoughts on the Islanders? Are you in much disdain for them as you are for the Sabres?
No. No. I don't know if that's just because I just hate the Sabres, but I think Sorokin's He will have wanted a better start to the season, I'm sure. But at least the thing is with the Islanders is at least you've got little glimmers of stuff that you can hold on to. Most importantly, Matthew Schaefer's come into the league this year as the number 1 overall pick, and he's playing at a point per game at the moment. I don't know if you saw his first goal. What an absolutely crazy play that was. It was just an absolute mess in front of the goal. No one seemed to know where the puck was, and he just came absolutely flying in and just like slid in and just poked it home. It was a great play, really great play. But like
switched on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. He's seen an opportunity there. He's gone for it. He's used his speed and just flown in there and been able to, to push it in. A couple of games coming up at home, kind of either side, bookended of an away trip to Ottawa. They've got the Oilers at home, then that road trip to Ottawa, and then home to the Sharks. So I think they'll get themselves off the board. They have got a few guys on, out at the moment that hopefully they'll be able to get back over the next week or so. I think they'll get all right. They'll get themselves right. Sorokin will just need to kind of figure out what he's doing at the moment, because he's had a really underwhelming start. But yeah, I think they'll pick themselves up. And they weren't a team that we were expecting to sort of start any fires this season, but I think that they will be disappointed to have nothing on the board after 3 games, I think.
Yeah, they need to just stop shooting themselves in the foot, and they seem to get in their own way, do the Islanders. On the ice, as opposed to other teams who sort of shoot themselves in the foot off the ice. But I'll have to bring up that Druin match penalty in the Penguins game. He just red misted, got a bit angry that it was roughed up a little bit, and just went clear cross check straight to the face after the keepers jumped on the puck. He got himself a match penalty, and he was suspended as well for that, which I think was well deserved. But it's players like that in a key tight game against the Penguins, and you just lose your head a little bit. The Islanders need to just calm it down, grind out results a bit more, and just rely on the talent a bit more rather than losing their heads.
Yeah, completely agree. It's just not what you need, especially from someone like Drouin as well, who's he is a veteran player in this league. You just wouldn't have thought that that's something that he would have done. But I'm sure he's had plenty of time to reflect on it, and ultimately, he can't help the team if he's not on the ice, and he's that kind of boneheaded play, so to speak, has cost him and cost his team. So I'm sure he's been chewed out about that behind the scenes, I'm sure, but he'll just have to keep a lid on it in future, I think. Should we move into the Pacific?
Yep. So, no shock, I guess, really, from the first team in the Pacific right now. The second team in our power rankings, the Vegas Golden Knights. The king of the overtimes, it seems. They just love to draw out and give the fans their money's worth at each of their games. They've got 6 points. However, they've got them through 2 wins, 1 an overtime win, and then 2 overtime losses. They played the Kings at home before going away to the Sharks, the Kraken and the Flames. So we kind of thought they'd start off fairly strong with 6 points, and that's pretty much what they've got. But I think we can summarise their games with the big scorers coming in strong. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Golden Knights?
Yeah, well, like you said, giving the fans the money's worth, that's for sure. But what a start to the season for Jack Eichel! 4 goals and 5 assists. Dorofeyev as well with 5 goals. I think that's caught a few people by surprise. He's had an absolutely electric start to the season. But they're a high scoring team. Mark Stone's got 6 assists as well. Nice start for Mitch Marner being at a point per game. They've just been let down a little bit in their goaltending, and again, just to come back to my my fantasy team for a second, I had to bin Aiden Hill off because he was just absolutely killing me. So he left the team rather quickly. But yeah, he's Dorofeyev's been fantastic, absolute sniper. But yeah, I think they'll be 6 points. I think is roughly around about where they thought they would be. No losses in regulation time at the moment, and they've got a nice little home stretch coming up against the Bruins, the Flames, and the Hurricanes. So that game against the Hurricanes will be a really good game, I think. But I think with them having a few games at home, opportunity for them to kind of carry on how they've started, I think that they're looking really sharp.
Yeah, I said at the start of the year, I don't think the Golden Knights will win the Stanley Cup unless they get a better goaltender than Hill. I don't know the guy. I got nothing against him personally. I just don't rate him. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him in terms of minding the net for the Golden Knights. But that being said, I don't know whether you watched any of the Sharks game. They were down 3-2, and he managed to score a goal in the last 90 seconds, which was already sort of a poor mistake by Nedeljkovic. It kind of sort of bounced in front of him and sort of bubbled over him into the goal, and you think, oh god, that's got to be a sucker punch. Goes to overtime, obviously 3-on-3. For some reason, Nedeljkovic charges out of his net, close to the blue line to challenge for a puck, and gets absolutely embarrassed, and they score an overtime winner. The Sharks, I mean, we'll talk about the Sharks in due course, but I just think on behalf of the Golden Knights, like, you need that look. You have all the dynasty kind of teams that you just kind of hate, and you feel like everything goes for them. They get all the referees' calls, they get the look of the bounce at all times, and this is just the epitome. The fact that they managed to score to take it to overtime and then get a perfectly set up to win that game. Obviously, it's only one game out of 82 that they managed to turn around, and it's a game you'd have thought they would have won anyway. So, grand scheme of things, it's one of those things. But I was just pulling my hair. I go, "Oh my, really? Is that how they're gonna? Is that how it's gonna be this year?"
Yeah, I think Nedeljkovic is going to be getting some Christmas cards. I think from some of those Vegas players this year. It was an absolute gift. Yeah, that was. But like you said, it's sometimes you make your own luck. And you know, like you said, it was a game they were probably going to win anyway, or you would have expected them to win anyway. Yeah, complete sucker punch for the Sharks, but that's what, you know, is from Vegas's perspective. That's kind of what winning teams do, don't they? They always find a way.
Yeah. And it has been confirmed that Pietrangelo is out for the year in the playoffs. He's been put on the new sort of long-term injury reserve, which sort of frees up the cap for Vegas, but in a way where he cannot come back. There is no way he is coming back this year at all. Obviously, if he comes back next year is another question. That remains to be seen. But yeah, he's definitely out for the year.
Yeah, and it was like we discussed. Now teams will have to they'll have to declare a player out for the full season as well as the playoffs. In order to get the full salary cap relief. Now, Alex Pietrangelo makes $8.8 million on the Vegas Golden Knights, so that will free them up. We know Vegas love a move around the trade deadline. Yeah, I think that puts them in a very nice position, I think, to try and get something to push them over the edge, I think.
Yep, and do you want to lead us onto the Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Edmonton Oilers, second place in the division. They were our fourth-ranked team on our power rankings going into the year. They've got a 2-0-1 record for 5 points. Wins against the Canucks and the Rangers, and an overtime, a shootout loss to the Flames. Yeah, kind of, they're exactly where you'd expect. They haven't lost in regulation. They're looking good, looking sharp. McDavid's, off to the races with 4 points in 3 games. Hasn't scored yet, but, getting plenty of assists. Draisaitl's putting up points. Nugent Hopkins putting up points. And, yeah, they're kind of seemingly doing all right with their goalie tandem. I know that a lot of teams do have kind of issues with Edmonton's goaltending. But, yeah, Skinner getting a shutout against the Rangers. Calvin Pickard as well has had a reasonable start in his game against the Canucks as well. So yeah, I think they'll be very happy with that. They've got a 4-game road stretch coming up now, where they're going to play the Islanders, the Devils, the Red Wings, and the Senators. yeah, what do you what do you think of that? I mean, that Flames game especially, shootout loss. They were 3-0 up. Kind of choked on that one a little bit.
Absolutely, and Skinner, though he's obviously got the shutout to redeem himself against the Rangers, absolute howler again on the third goal to concede, to sort of level it out. I think that was just sort of a first game hiccup. I think if the next two games sort of set them up to be bad, then that would have shown, but it didn't. I think it was just a one game hiccup, and they've shown that they're going to be again a powerhouse again this year. We'll see how they do on the East Coast in this coming week, really.
Yeah, four game road stretch again. I think I think about five. I think five points. I mean, they could get around 5 points out of that. They could get 6. They could also come away with 8. That none of those would surprise me whatsoever. But yeah, I think they've got quite a nice little run to be able to pick up some points and kind of start moving up into their next gear. Yeah,
absolutely. Now we're starting to go into sort of best of the rest. It seems like in the West at the minute. Third place in the West. Best of the rest in the West. Seattle Kraken, 28th in our power rankings, coming up in third place at the minute with 5 points, with 2 wins and an overtime loss, +2 on their plus minus. I think, again, I don't want to beat down on the Kraken, but to say that they haven't lost in regulation at this point is quite miraculous. I don't think they played the best of hockey. I mean, they beat the Ducks 3-1, beat the Golden Knights 2-1 in overtime, and lost to the Habs 4-5 in overtime. I mean, it looks good on paper, can't lie, but I have watched them. I know I said that I struggled to watch the Kraken, but I haven't watched them. They still don't inspire me, but they have pulled out the results, so I can't deny them that.
Yeah, they've looked all right, haven't they? They've done okay. They started the season, couple of really nice performances from Joey Decord as well in goal. Obviously, I know he had a bit of a struggle against the Canadiens. But yeah, McCann started well, Dunn started well, Beniers has started well. Again, the players that you would expect to be, in amongst it, putting up some points and doing some damage. Yeah, like I said, the paper doesn't lie. They've got 5 points from 3 games. I think that's probably better than what they were expecting. And I think they'll just be hoping that they can keep it going. They're another team coming up on a road trip this week. They've got the Senators, followed by the Maple Leafs, and then the Flyers and the Capitals. So could be a little bit of anything there. That's going to be a really tough, potentially some tough matchups in there. I think they'll be pleasantly surprised with how they've started.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised. Again, I think they'll fall back towards the mean again in the next set of games. I will be, if I'm proven wrong about the Kraken and it's turned out to be an exciting, solid playoff team, etc., then I will eat my words and I'll happily do so, because it's not like I don't like the Kraken. It's just I didn't think they're going to be like this the whole season, but shall see now.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the Kraken, I don't think they're a team that necessarily people dislike. I think they're just a team that quite a few people don't really feel anything about, which is almost worse. And that's how you sort of fade into that obscurity. But yeah, maybe if they keep kind of putting some points on the board, some people start to sit up and take notice. So we can hope. And that moves us from Seattle in third down to the Anaheim Ducks, 4th place in the division. 3 games played with 2 wins and a loss. We had them as our 22nd ranked team in our power rankings going into the season. But what have been your thoughts on the Ducks? They've been putting up some points. There's been some exciting young players getting on the board as well. And what are your thoughts there?
I do like the Ducks as a team in general. In terms of their performances, I think they've been doing fairly well, scraping out wins where they could have potentially lost. Now, they haven't had the strongest lineup to start. They obviously played the Kraken away, the Sharks away, and then the Penguins at home. But they have come out with 2 wins, one on overtime. They're getting the young player, Seneca, is a standout for me, getting 2 goals, 2 assists in the first 3 games. Nobody really expected that from him. But other than that, you got all the players you do expect. You got Carlson chipping in, 5 points, McTavish with 4 assists, Gauthier 3 goals, Granlund Terry with 3 assists. But propping up my fantasy team, so speaking about that, is Chris Kreider with 4 goals and an assist after coming over from the Rangers. I think he could be the piece that pulls his team forward.
I think you're right. I think that was a really, really smart piece of business that they did in the summer to bring in Chris Kreider. A veteran scorer, someone who's put up some massive points in this league with the Rangers beforehand, and I know that a few people maybe didn't necessarily think he was going to replicate that goal scoring, and it could fizzle out, but he's had a really, really good start to the season, and Leo Carlson as well. Coming into that 3rd season now. He's kind of starting to show his quality and how dominant a player he can be. Seneca as well. McTavish got the contract sorted, 4 points in 3 games. Got Gauthier with 3 goals as well. Granlund, who they brought in over the summer, he's at 3 assists in 3 games. Troy Terry, 3 assists in 3 games. So they're getting the points on the board. They're getting the puck in the net again, which like we said, they were really unlucky in that game against the Kraken with the Zellweger goal. That was unlucky for them to have that.
So frustrating. That was so frustrating. You could see.
Yeah, I think was the play blown dead, was it? And then they've kind of squeezed it in afterwards.
It was the refs thought that keeper had Dracord sort of had it covered, and he didn't. And obviously, in hindsight, you can't see what they were seeing, but from the cameras, even as you're watching a game on TV, you can see the puck was loose, and they got it in, but they blew the plate dead before it went in, and then obviously they can't reverse it after that. So it's just one of them that could have potentially changed the game. You don't know, you can't say for sure, but they played well that game. It just took the wind out the sails potentially, but that definitely should have been a goal.
Yeah, and I will say, I know it's a massive thing in sports, isn't it, to generally kind of harp on the referees and things, but and I get it in hockey for things like tripping calls or high sticks or cross checking or those quite obvious plays that do happen. However, making a decision over whether the goalie's got the puck covered or not, that's a really hard thing for them to see. So I think the referees in retrospect will look to that and gone, I'm sure they'll hold their hands up and say we got that wrong. But that's it was a tough play to call, but it's just unfortunate for Zellweger, I think, and like I said, it might not have necessarily changed the whole course of the game, but it's unlucky nevertheless.
That's the thing, you learn to play by the whistle in whatever sport you play. You play to the whistle, and that's why, like with a tripping call, if they miss it at the time, they could go back and give a penalty, and team goes on the power play goes to the box, etc. Then that sort of can work itself out even after the play is dead. But when the whistle goes, players stop playing, and the puck goes in, even if it's a split second, you can't have that element of doubt. You can't reverse and say, actually, that is a goal now. It is what it is. But yeah, I don't think we need to it's too late now, we have overanalyzed it. It's not going to impact the Ducks' season. I mean, if they miss out by 1 goal at the end of the year, I'm sure they'll have had a goal that's gone in that maybe shouldn't have done to even itself out. But yeah, it's just...
exactly it. 82 games, it balances out, doesn't it?
Yeah, most of the time anyway. But yeah, we'll move on to the other team in LA, the LA Kings. 5th in the division with 3 points. 13th in our power rankings. Bit of a weird start, bit of a poor start potentially for the Kings. 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 overtime loss, posting a -4. Though their schedule opening was rough. They started up against the Avalanche, losing 4-1. They were outclassed in that game completely. They only scored on a 5-against-3 power play. Other than that, the Avalanche had them covered in every element of the ice. They then went up against the Golden Knights and they won that on a penalty shootout. So again, good comeback, showing a bit of mental fortitude there. But then they lost against the Jets 3-2, and then they lost against my Wild. Now, they went 3-0 down in that game and brought it back and then lost in overtime, or in another shootout. So again, not to panic over the Kings at this point, but I think they have shown that maybe against better teams they might not quite have what it takes to grind out the wins. But again, early doors yet.
Yeah, I think 3 points after 4 games, I think it looks worse than it is, especially when you consider the teams they've had to play. Great starts to the season for Kempe and Byfield, and then the Anze Kopitar retirement tour. It's currently got 4 points in 4 games. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think they are a very good team, but they're not quite an elite team. And I think that when they come up against the likes of, the Jets, the Golden Knights, the Avalanche, that they maybe just don't quite have the quality yet to kind of get themselves over the edge there. But I still think they're a very good team. I think they've started well. Like I said, I think it just, metrically speaking, in terms of points on the board, I think that looks a bit worse than it is. But yeah, I'm not kind of concerned about the Kings at all. I still think they're a playoff team. They've got a run coming up of the Penguins, the Hurricanes, and the Blues. So I think that they'll, I could see them picking up at least 4 points there. They could, even with a home game against the Hurricanes, that'll be another sort of litmus test of how they do against an elite side. But if they can get a little winning run together, then yeah, I think they'll be really happy with that. Just wanted to touch on Byfield as well. So he's a big body, 6'5", but my God, he is rapid, absolutely rapid. He just flies about the ice, and when you combine someone with that frame, with that speed, that's why he's the weapon that he is. And I love Quinton Byfield. I think he's a fantastic player.
Okay, 2 points then. The first one is a would you rather. Would you rather Byfield is driving the net towards you, or would you rather get hit by a shot from Hedman?
Driving the net, I'm the goalie in this situation, right?
Yeah, or just Byfield's got the puck, he's massive, he's fast, and he's going straight towards you.
God. I'm getting hurt in both those situations, aren't I? So it's basically whichever one. In that situation, I think I'd rather take the shot from Hedman, because at least that's going to be a concentrated level of pain in one area. I think getting rocked by Byfield, I think that's just gonna just knock the soul out of your body at the same time. He's such a beast. Yeah, I absolutely love him. 55 as well, great jersey number. I absolutely love that. Love a good double-numbered jersey. Yeah, he's an absolute
my other
beast.
point.
What about yourself? Sorry, on the you taking the shot from Hedman, or are you taking the rush from Byfield?
I would take the shot from Hedman, because you get hit by a shot from Hedman, you look like a hero. If you get steamrolled by Byfield,
you just
look like an absolute lemon. You do, so I think on that state, I think I'd take the shot by Hedman.
Yeah, good shout.
Another sneaky point I wanted to bring up, and I know the season's long, but when you're looking at these teams, that you're thinking, are you going to be top 3? Are you going to be a wild card team? Or are you going to miss out, etc.? I think the Kings, and I also think the Blues, are teams that could very much have to rely on a wild card spot. And they play each other in a few games' time. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to remember this, we might need to make a note of it. I will say that whoever wins that game against the Kings and the Blues will get into the playoffs as a wildcard team, and the other team will not make the playoffs.
Oh, that's a bold early season call. Yeah, we'll make note of that on the Google Doc, and then we can come back to that at game sort of 78, 79 and see where we're at. We'll keep our receipts.
Yeah, and I'm going to hope you forget all about that. I can't believe I said that out loud, but that's what I just get a feeling of. I just think whichever of those team wins that game, they're going to go on to make the plus for the wild card. But anyway, not putting money on it.
The sixth place team in the division, coming off of last season's antics, the Vancouver Canucks. They were our 18th ranked team in our power rankings going into the season. They've got a 1-2-0 record at the start of the year with a -1 on the goal differential. They opened the year with a 5-1 victory against the Flames before dropping a road game to the Oilers 2-1. And then being beaten by the aforementioned St. Louis Blues 5-2. They've been okay. I think that they'll maybe again be 3 games in. They might be a bit disappointed to only have 1 win on the board, but I think what your thoughts on the Canucks? A bit of a strange start to the season, I think.
Yeah, a bit uninspiring, really. You had the first game against the Flames, and they were quite lucky with that. It shows them to be quite a better team than they actually were on the ice. And then they followed it up with then 2 losses. Albeit 2 losses against teams which are, should be there or thereabouts. But when you talk about the Canucks from a few years ago who was doing really well, and then they had a poor season last year, lots of off-ice drama and issues, and you would really hope that they would kickstart this season strongly. And I just get the sense of 6th place is where we're kind of going to be talk about the Canucks a lot. They're kind of in the no man's land area.
Yeah, a little bit in that kind of hockey purgatory where you don't want to be. We do like to talk about obviously kind of bright sparks and little glimmers of hope. Good start to the season for Thatcher Demko in goal. I think he's played pretty well. Made a really nice save in that Flames game on Kadri as well.
Yeah, they could really do with a player like JT Miller, but
couldn't they just?
But all I'm said, that is a scoring for the Rangers, but he's the only player scoring on the Rangers. So if they still had Miller on the Canucks, and how badly would the Rangers be doing?
Good Lord.
So share the spread the love. They're going up on a 4-game away stretch now, the Canucks, against the Stars, Blackhawks, Capitals and Penguins. Again, I think they're going to get blown out of the water by the Stars. I can't see them doing well against them. But then it's kind of sort of anyone's sort of games against the Blackhawks, Capitals and Penguins. I'd expect them to get sort of maybe 3 points from those 3 games.
Yeah, I think it's you know what, it's a real nice opportunity, isn't it, for the Vancouver Canucks, the Canucks to show
All right,
the
again,
league.
you can say it. You can say that word.
It's their opportunity, isn't it, to show the league, like, what are you going to be this season? A 4-game road stretch is tough for any team. I think. Yeah, I agree. I think you write off that Stars game. I think the Stars are going to absolutely dust them all over the ice. But the Blackhawks, Capitals, Penguins, if they want to be considered as a serious team, and if they want to think that they're in playoff contention or wildcard contention, they need to go out. They need to get 5 points minimum from those games. I think. If they drop, if they come back from that road trip with 2 points to show for it, I think that's going to be a really rough start to the season for them, and I think that's going to, we talk about contenders and pretenders. I think they maybe fall into the latter in that regard. But it's a good opportunity for them to step up over the next week and see what they can do.
Yep. Right. Moving into the 7th team in the Pacific Division, then the last team in our power rankings, the San Jose Sharks. Now, they've lost all 3 of their games to start the season, but unlike other teams, they've seemed to have shown a bit more spirit. They lost 2 of them in overtime, 4-3 to the Golden Knights, 7-6 to the Ducks, and then got absolutely blown out by the Hurricanes 5-1. I think the Sharks have shown exactly who they are, a young, inexperienced team who have got a bit of promise, showing a bit of spark, but ultimately just do not have essentially what it takes to come out and win games against stronger teams. I mean, the top 3 scorers, Orlov, Celebrini and Smith, all with 3 assists. So while they score goals, they seem to spread it round a bit. But I think one big glaring obvious issue is their keeping. We've touched on them before with Nedeljkovic having an absolute nightmare. And then their prospect Askarov also not really cutting the mustard, although he did probably do a bit better than what the stats showed. But yeah, what are your thoughts about the Sharks?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, doesn't it, that vibes does not equal wins in the column. I have a bit of like a personal, grudge with the Sharks, and I think that's purely from the aspect of being a Blackhawks fan, and that's purely the teams are in very, very similar situations with very similar kind of roster makeups, etc. But for whatever reason, the San Jose Sharks are the kind of nation's darlings, because they're all having these sort of sleepovers on their road games and everything like that, and they're all about the vibes and the good times. And yet the Blackhawks are just this like absolute dumpster fire, incapable of doing anything. But that's the kind of the national perspective. But no one was expecting the Sharks to do anything productive this year. It was more about how their youngsters look, and Celebrini and Smith, they've come out point per game. I'm sure they'll be dead happy with that. Like I said, I'm sure they'll have maybe hoped for a bit more from Askarov. Might have just been a little bit of an off night. It's such a tough one for goalies as well, especially young goalies, because goalies in the NHL, they really don't start to sort of come into their own until they hit sort of 24, 25. So I think Askarov will be a cornerstone piece of the Sharks once they get back into contention. But yeah, just a little bit of a rough start to the season for him. But Orlov getting amongst the assists as well. I know they went out and brought in a whole ton of veteran help. A lot of which I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay. But Orlov was the one they brought in that I did really like. I really liked Dmitry Orlov. I think he was fantastic on the Capitals, and will kind of provide a bit of veteran calming presence to the Sharks.
Yeah, they got a fairly friendly schedule coming up. On the road to the Utah Mammoth, at home against the Penguins, and on the road against the Islanders. Now, I fancy them to get some points out of these games. You would hope so. I think this would again reset the expectations. To sort of met them in the first 3 games. I'd put them at 2 points in the next sort of. If they come out with another 2 points, they're going to be sort of the bottom of the division again this year. But it's all about the progression and keeping the feels going, as it were. But yeah, not much really more to say about the Sharks from my view.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll move into the bottom place team in the division, the Calgary Flames. I feel like they've been a little bit hard done by. 4 games in, a 1-3-0 record, so they've only got 2 points. They got that start of the season, shootout victory against the Oilers in that kind of big comeback, followed up by losses against the Canucks, the Blues, and the Golden Knights. I think they've just been quite unlucky. Just a few things that just haven't gone their way. Dustin Wolf's had he's started all 4 games again. Dustin Wolf is going to be, he's a great goalie. Calder Trophy finalist last season, absolutely outstanding young talent. And I think they just need to help him out a little bit more. Coronato's had a good start to the season. A couple of goals and an assist to get the move going. He's another guy who's got an absolutely fantastic release. But yeah, your thoughts on the Flames? Are they just unlucky, or are they maybe not quite as good a team as we thought?
I don't know. I'm scared if I'm the Flames, because yeah, you could say they've been unlucky, but they haven't shown the spark and the personality to be a team that can that can just like dominate a game. Like that's essentially what I'm scared of. If they go a couple of goals down, have they got it in them to come back? I don't know. So I am worried about the Flames. They're overplaying Wolf, who I think they're relying on the fact that he's the next big upcoming keeper, and expecting him to kind of save them from trouble. And he's doing what he can, but he's not really getting it over the line. It remains to be seen. I think they've got a slightly tough upcoming schedule. I'm scared if what happens in this week happens in the next few weeks, then they could really be in a sticky situation, and they could be dropping in the power rankings as a result, really. I just think there's other teams out there that are going to be up there doing better than them. Yeah,
agreed. I mean, that Canucks game was just... I mean, that game for me was compounded. Did you see the goal with where the shot just ripped Kevin Ball in the helmet? The one on his head. Just absolutely ripped him in the helmet, and then they just put the rebound in, and it was just like, oh man. There's some days where it's just not your night, and it was just it just kind of completely compounded that game to, it's just one of those nights. But
this is the thing that goes back to the conversation with player to the whistle. Like, if a player takes a shot to the noggin and he falls to the ice, it quite often comes with a whistle, and player's dead. However, it bounced off his head and back to the player so fast, and he managed to rip it in before the whistles were blown. And it's a fair goal. Like, there's no penalty there, and obviously he's going to get treated just as fast as it would have done anyway. But I guess in terms of unluckiness, I think that does come up there with that.
Tough break.
Tough break.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a couple of tricky games coming up in the Golden Knights and the Jets. They have got the Utah Mammoth next, but they're going to have to start getting some points on the board and getting some scoring going. Otherwise, exactly like you said, I think they'll be a bit worried. But we'll move from the bottom of one division to the top of a final division. Our last division of the day, the Central. What's happening in the Central, Nathaniel? Colorado Avalanche leading out on top.
Oh, my Stanley Cup pick. Absolutely smashing it out of the park. Love it. Yeah, the Colorado Avalanche, 4 games, 7 points, dropping a game in overtime. They're 5th in our power rankings, but I think they are... I mean, this is going to be the best division in hockey this year. So many good teams, but the fact that this team can just win games. They beat the Kings 4-1, again in a game I think they absolutely dominated. They beat the Mammoth 2-1, again, not a high-scoring game, but they get the job done. They lost a crazy game to the Stars in overtime, 5-4.
Great game.
That was absolutely a fantastic game. Could have gone either way. The fact it went to the Stars, I think it's good that they got a point from it, but yeah. And then just had a nice cool-down game against the Sabres, winning 3-1 with a great goal by McKinnon. But yeah,
that was filthy, absolutely filthy goal from McKinnon.
Yeah, I just think that their top players, McKinnon 4 goals, 4 assists in 4 games. Nikas as well, 3 goals, 5 assists. Makar with a goal and 4 assists, and Lehkonen with 2 goals and an assist. So it's their top players, top lines, just absolutely dominating. Backed up by, who would you believe it, Wedgwood in net with a 9.35 save percentage across the 4 games. Would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for that crazy Stars game. I just think they are a well-built team that are going to go on a run. Yeah,
absolutely. And, I think you look back to last season when they made that trade with Carolina, with Mikko Rantanen going to the Hurricanes and Marty Natchez coming back the other way. What a trade in retrospect that's ended up being. Natchez looks absolutely fantastic. He's got speed for days. He can score. He can create. He's a fantastic player. So, I know it was such a blow at the time for them losing Rantanen, but my God, they got a very good return. In the trade. Quite a reasonable schedule coming up for them. Away trip to the Blue Jackets before they're home to the Bruins, and then away to the Utah Mammoth. So I think that Colorado train's going to keep on chugging, and I think we could be looking at a situation where they're 7 games in, and they could very much have 6 wins on the board, or I'd be very comfortable saying at least 5.
Yeah, I'm very much in agreement. I think great teams are not afraid to make bold moves, and the fact that it just plays off like it's like nothing's really changed for them. Swapping out Rantanen, they just keep on playing, keep on going well. They have got competition though. Second place, Dallas Stars. I feel like I'm going to eat my words already. Going into this year, change of coach. Will it work? Will it not? Well, so far it's done absolute wonders. They've won every game they've played this year. Obviously, the Avalanche on top purely because obviously they had that one extra game. But in that, the Dallas Stars have beaten the Jets 5-4, beat the Avalanche 5-4, and then beat my Wild 5-2. Again, another strong, powerful team. Going to be hard to stop. I think it's going to be a tight race this year between these two teams in this division.
Yeah, 100%. They are. Yeah, I think we may potentially have to go back and clip up that those comments from yourself on the coaching chat. I mean, they had an absolutely bombastic pre-season, and then they've just carried it on into the regular season. Really tough opening 3 games, and they've come out with 3 wins. Absolutely showing what they're all about. Rantanen, Roope Hintz, Thomas Harley all getting amongst the points. Wyatt Johnston as well, Jason Robertson, all playing at better than a point per game pace at the moment. Good performances from Jay Cottinger as well. I know the numbers don't really reflect it. Obviously, he's only got a .905 on the season in terms of his save percentage, but I think he's been playing really well. It's going to be so tight up at the top between them and the Avalanche in terms of who's going to take the Central. But yeah, they'll be really, really happy with that start to the season. And then they've got in their next 3 a couple of home games with an away trip in the middle. They're at home to the Canucks, away to the Blues, and then home to the Blue Jackets. So very much similarly to the Avalanche, we could be here talking 3 games down the line with some more wins on the board, and yeah, I think they're very exciting team.
Yep. Unfortunately so. No, a team you'd somewhat quite unexpectedly propping up here in 3rd place, the 27th ranked Nashville Predators. Solid start to the year, the 2 wins, a loss and an overtime loss. Obviously not quite gone up as again the strength of schedule against the first 2 teams, but they beat the Blue Jackets 2-1. Blackets, what? Oh dear. They lost to the Mammoth in overtime before heading away to the Senators, smashing them 4-1, and then losing a very high-scoring game 7-4 against the Maple Leafs. Again, I think strong start to the season. I haven't been blown away with the Predators as opposed to the other teams in this division, but very solid performance, I think.
Yeah, they'll be happy to have come out with 5 points after 4 games. I think they'll be certainly. I mean, it pretty much couldn't be any worse than it was last year. But they've come out to a decent start. Marchessault getting amongst the points, Eric Haller getting amongst the points, and Yossi and Forsberg as well, getting some goals in and some assists as well. Decent start for Jussi Saros in goal as well. He's had a very reasonable start to the year, which I think that kind of part of their struggles last year obviously wasn't helped by Jussi Saros having a bit of an off year as it was anyway. I do think that kind of as we get further into the season, the nature's course will sort of straighten everything out. I think that the Predators will move down this division. But you know what, as far as they're concerned, start of the year could have gone a lot worse, but they'll be, I think, quite happy with how it looks. They've got a couple of tricky away games coming up against the Montreal Canadiens and the Winnipeg Jets before they return home to play the Anaheim Ducks. So yeah, again, that's quite a tricky little run for them, and they've got 2 wins in the bank for now, but 3 games down the line, they might still just have the 2 wins, and it'll be interesting to see how they go. We did think they'd maybe, I don't know if bounce back is maybe the word, but rebound very softly from last year. Yeah, I think all things considered, they'll take that start to the season.
Yeah, and if you hadn't seen it, mate, look at the Ryan O'Reilly goal against the Blue Jackets. He juggled the puck. It was like a school competition, like a juggler, really. Great skill. Showed what he can do. Obviously, let's see it carry over into across the season in tighter games necessarily, and higher stakes. But yeah, great goal, that one.
Yeah, he's a great player. Is O'Reilly, really solid centre. Someone who really does excel at the 200-foot game. Can score. Really great
Huge.
Defensive. Really great defensive forward as well. Great at the face-off dot. A really nice piece to have in that team. If things do start to fade away over the course of the season, and we do get we do start to see them slide down the standings, potentially at the trade deadline, someone like Ryan O'Reilly would be a great piece to add for a contending team. If Florida, for example, were to declare Barkov out for the year and they wanted to go out and get some help with Ryan O'Reilly, or Vegas, if they free with that 8.8 million that they've got kicking around.
Stop it.
Predicting trades off the bat already.
I don't want Ryan O'Reilly to go to either of those 2 teams. Come on now.
No, the one thing I do want more than anything in the world is the ideal situation would be Nashville go on a massive losing streak. They decide that they're going to blow it up and completely tear it all down, and Steven Stamkos gets traded to the Florida Panthers.
No.
It's a sickening thought. It's a sickening thought, isn't it? But I'd also love to see it. I couldn't
imagine he'd leave Tampa anyway, but the fact he left Tampa for Nashville is one thing, but for him to go to from Tampa to Nashville to Florida, he would be hated.
It'd be the proper villain move, wouldn't it? It's yeah. Could you imagine what a scene that'd be? Right, before we get too angry about prospective trades, the 4th place team in the division, the Winnipeg Jets. They've played 3 games. They've got 2 wins and a loss. A loss against the Dallas Stars, win against the Kings and the Islanders. Yeah, I think that's kind of you look at that introductory slate to the start of the season, I think that's kind of exactly where they'd expect to be. Scheifele, great start to the season. Kyle Connor, obviously fresh off that new deal, 3 goals, 2 assists. Barron as well, getting 2 goals, 2 assists as well, and Gabe Velarde chipping in with 3 assists. So, they're getting some nice productive scoring. Really good start from Scheifele. I don't think a 5-4 loss to the Stars is anything to be too upset over. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the Jets? Obviously, last season's President Trophy winners. Decent start.
Yeah, very good start, and this is where it becomes more and more difficult in this division, because it's just another great solid team. Obviously, predictions and what I would want, obviously, as a Wild fan, them coming in and trying to break into this top 3 is going to be difficult. I then made what in hindsight already is a pretty ridiculous prop in terms of the Kings and the Blues wild card sort of positions. I think the Jets have shown that they're, again, a great solid team. They're going to be up there with the rest of them, really. They're not quite as exciting or as an explosive team, I feel, as opposed to the Stars or the Avalanche, but they're just good at grinding out the results and just performing how good teams perform. They're going away to the Flyers, at home Predators, away at the Flames. Again, I think they're going to get 6 points from them games. I think they come out again and do that and just show that they'll be a force to be reckoned with. And it's going to put all the other teams on standby. Everyone's going to expect certain teams to be at the top, and then they'll be shocked again when the Jets are right there again.
Yeah, completely agree. Really, really good start. Really productive. I think the top three teams in this division, the Jets, the Stars, and the Avalanche, I think it's kind of their division to lose, so to speak, in terms of the playoff positions. But yeah, very, very good start. Can see them picking up a few more wins, and yeah, I think they'll be right up there.
And with that, we'll go into my Minnesota Wild. Yeah, bit of a hot and cold start for the Wild this year, I think. 2-2 record, 4 points, 5th place in the division. Our 9th overall power ranked team. They started off like a house on fire, beating the Blues 5-0. Absolute steamrolled them, which was absolutely great. But then it's sort of gone into a bit of up and downs. We lost to the Blue Jackets 7-4, though I will say there's a few empty net goals and stuff at the end, which makes that look worse than it was. But then we beat the Kings on penalties, and then lost to the Stars 5-2. But yeah, I've got some interesting information about the Minnesota Wild, but I just thought I'd get your view on them, taking away my bias.
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I think hot and cold is pretty accurate. Started like an absolute freight train. Those first 4 games, though, I do think they've played better than 4 points would suggest. Kaprizov's been outstanding. I'm so glad they were able to get that contract issue sorted before the season started, because now he can just be Kirill Kaprizov, the NHL superstar. 9 points in 4 games, ludicrous. Also, I've been so impressed, and I know I was kind of pumping the tyres on him a lot in the pre-season and kind of G'ing him up. Been so impressed with Zeev Boyum on the especially on the power play. He's been absolutely fantastic. What a start for the rookie. Been terrific. And I've also been really impressed with the goalie tandem of Gustafsson and Wallstedt. I thought Wallstedt, especially in that shootout victory, he did really well. He's got a nice little bit of swagger about him as well, the way he plays. But I think they've got an absolutely fantastic tandem, potentially one of the best in the league. If not now, then certainly in the few years to come. If I was yourself, I'd be very happy. But I'll let you rattle off your little facts and figures.
Yeah, no, obviously Wild are my team. I think they are an extremely fun team to watch. They put in lots and lots of shots on the net. Some go in more than others. But one absolutely ridiculous fact, and I'm sure if you follow hockey or on any forums, you won't be surprised to hear the Wild have the best power play in the NHL after 4 games. And that comes down to the fact that we scored a power play goal against the Blues, but we scored 4 against the Blue Jackets. We scored 3, obviously, in-play goals against the Kings, and 2 against the Stars. And every single one of those goals came on the power play, which goes to show that the Wild obviously have a great power play at the moment, but does also sort of highlight a bit of weakness in terms of that we're not scoring many goals on open ice on 5-on-5. Obviously, I could spend ages and ages talking about the Wild, but this is not really the purpose of this podcast, so I'm going to refrain myself a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a great start by the Wild. Obviously, Kaprizov, Baldy, Boyum all scoring high amount of points, but all of them mostly coming on the power play. Great goalie tandem. A bit weak on the blue line. They're not Boyum's fault as a rookie. I think they're just letting in a few too many goals that they could potentially keep out. But I think a great start. We've got decent games coming up. Away trip at the Capitals, Flyers and Rangers, but I'm expecting us to do some work against those, especially if Rangers can again not score at home. That'd be great, thank you. And the final thing I wanted to say was Jacob Middleton's hit on Duchesne in the Dallas game was chef's kiss. Absolutely amazing, and did well in the fight afterwards, but absolutely
crushed him.
Strong tash game.
No, I echo all of that, to be honest. I think when they get Brodeen back as well, I think that'll help him on the blue line. Never hurts to have the best power play in the league, does it? Absolutely outstanding. Like you said, does raise a little bit of concern about their 5-on-5. But teams will. I think because their power play is so good, I think teams will be apprehensive to maybe be quite as physical or put themselves in position to give penalties away. And I think that could open things up a bit more on the 5-on-5, just because they might have that extra half yard of space that maybe they didn't have before. So yeah, I think that will kind of, like, their power play may go down a little bit because they're not getting quite as many, but then I think their 5-on-5 goals will go up. Really nice start from Tarasenko as well. Now obviously he came in to kind of add a bit of forward depth as well, but 4 points in 4 games, really nice start for him.
Yeah, and he's getting Zuccarello back as well. The bottom 6 forwards, apart from Hartman, have really been struggling. Start of the year, it's been very top 2 line heavy, which is, I guess, is quite a lot of teams. But I think we've got players coming back. Nico Sturm, if he comes back anytime soon as well, will add in that depth. I think, again, it's such a difficult division, but I'm excited and I'm happy with where the Wild are at the minute.
Yeah, as you should be. Okay, so into our 6th place team in the Central, we've got the St. Louis Blues with 3 games played, and obviously a nightmare start against the Wild to start with, but then a couple of victories in the follow up from there against the Flames, against the Canucks. Jake Neighbours with 3 goals in 3 games, and Jimmy Snuggerud as well, the rookie, with 2 goals and an assist in his first 3 games as well. So really nice to see. Been really nice to see quite a few rookies starting well and getting themselves established in the NHL in kind of the opening weeks. Again, another team with a good goalie tandem of Binnington and Hoffa. I'm not personally I'm not a massive fan of Jordan Binnington just as the guy, but I do think he is a good goaltender. So your thoughts on the Blues? Are they we had them 16th ranked in our power rankings, obviously 4 points after 3 games. Is that kind of fair enough? Are they the victims of an incredibly strong division?
I think they're obviously victims of a very strong division. They're 6th in a division after winning 2 of their 3 games. So it just goes to show how strong the Central is at the minute. They had a really rough game against the Wild. I didn't pen them down to have such a bad game, but have come back out again, beating the teams you would want to beat to be in the sort of the playoff run, the Flames and the Canucks. So it pens back to the chat we had earlier about the Kings. They got a 3-game home stretch against the Blackhawks, Stars and the Kings. Again, tough matches all season, obviously interdivisional against the Blackhawks and the Stars. And then I think it's in pivotal that they beat the Kings in either sense to just prove their mettle. I think Chip Montgomery's a great coach, and to have them turned around from a 5-0 loss, obviously a slow start to them winning the 2 games, I think they're going to be a good, solid team, but yes, a victim in a strong division for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving into our final 2 teams. Off of the bottom of the Central standings, my Chicago Blackhawks. Really, really strange start to the season. I mean, first and foremost, I've been thoroughly impressed with how they've played. It's just been so nice watching games that have actually kind of mattered. They've been right in it right up until the death. They lost their first 3 games, 3-2 loss against the Stanley Cup champions on their banner raising night. A 4-3 overtime loss to the Bruins in their home opener. A 3-2 loss against the Montreal Canadiens in their home opener. And then, they managed to get a 3-1 win against the Mammoth, which across those 4 games was probably the one that they were probably least deserving to win. But terrific start for Frank Nazar, especially. He's been absolutely electric. Plays with swagger, plays with confidence. Some of his scored the opening goal on the season as a whole in that first game against Florida. Absolutely gorgeous breakaway goal. I've been super impressed with him, but I think more than anyone, I've been super impressed with Spencer Knight. He's been absolutely unreal in his first full season as a starter. I think he's shown exactly what all the hype was about when he was selected in the first round. I think he's going to keep the Blackhawks in a lot of games this season that they maybe don't have any business being in. I could talk about the Blackhawks for years and years. What have been your thoughts on Nathaniel?
I've been impressed by the Blackhawks. Yes, they've come out with a few losses, a few more than anyone would want, but they've played tight, close games. They started poorly against the Panthers, really rough first period, but they showed the tenacity to come back and give the Panthers a game in that one. They obviously lost in overtime to the Bruins there, and then obviously lost to the Montreal Canadiens, who I guess a bit of admiration there for another young team. You'd hope the Blackhawks would start with that young team doing as well as they're doing, but I think a lot to be impressed with. The rebuild is going well, I would say. Again, victim of a very, very strong division. I hope it doesn't later come to bite them in the backside when they start losing games against the Avalanche and stuff like that. But I think, you're in the feel-good moments now with the Blackhawks. I think things are on the up, I would dare say. And yes, Spencer Knight, what a stud.
Yeah, for sure. I think the arrow's definitely pointing up in the right direction. And I think the most satisfying thing for me is that the young players have looked, fantastic. Obviously, Nazar's looked good. Bedard's got 2 goals and an assist already. Scored an absolutely gorgeous goal against the Bruins, a real classic Bedard one-timer. And we know he's got an elite release. I mean, he was very unlucky even in that first game against the Panthers. He absolutely fired one off the crossbar, and that was really unlucky. But Sam Rinzel's had a really good start to his NHL career as well. Couple of shaky moments. Artem Levshinov probably wouldn't have liked to have been scratched for the home opener against the Canadiens, but I think obviously they've brought Jeff Blashill in as an established NHL coach, and I think it's just for him teaching these players, how to make that transition to the professional game. And I think I've been really impressed with them. They're not going to be pulling up any trees this year. I've said, in all of our podcasts covering the pre-season, the summer, it's going to be all about sort of how it looks. And right now, I'm really impressed with how it is looking. And as long as they can stay in games, I think they'll be an entertaining team, and hopefully pick up some wins along the way.
Yeah. And with that then, we'll go on to our last team of this episode, the 19th power-ranked Utah Mammoth. They're coming with 2 points, a record of 1-2-0. Their only win coming in overtime against the Predators. They lost against the Avalanche in their season opener, and then lost against the Blackhawks as well, all on the road. I think steady performances by the Mammoth so far this year. Haven't been great, haven't been terrible, but as we keep harping on about, this division, you can't just be steady, you have to be destroyers to get anything going. Great goaltending from Vizmelka in the first 2 games as well, but other than Dylan Gunther with 2 goals, 2 assists, there haven't really been many scorers on this team. But yeah, again, not really much to say. They're kind of like the Seattle Kraken, sort of Detroit Red Wingsy type teams, I think.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Like you said, a good start from Gunther, and Vermelka's had a nice start to the season in goal as well. They came away with a 2-1 loss to the Avalanche, but we've already discussed previously that they're just an absolute juggernaut. So I don't really think that's too bad. They showed the grit and determination to get that win against the Predators. And again, the loss to the Blackhawks, it was a game they deserved to win. Unfortunately, they came up against Spencer Knight, who, stood on his head and put in an absolute masterclass. Always tricky, as we've said, to start the season on a road run. But they've now got an opportunity with some games at home now against the Flames, the Sharks, the Bruins, and then another one against the Avalanche. So I think that they'll get a couple of wins in that run. I think they can hopefully get themselves move themselves up the standings. But as I said, it's such a tough division that it allows a very small margin for error, I think. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams in the Central looking to try and bank a wild card spot, I think. But yeah, I think they'll get there. But just a bit of a sluggish start, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Not great, not terrible.
Mm.
And with that, I think, just to recap the week in the NHL, we'll just cover over sort of the statistical leaders in the clubhouse for top points, which I'm happy to say that in the front running at the minute is Kaprizov and Baldy, yes. But Eichel and Kaprizov have come in at 9 points in their opening set, and McKinnon and Baldy coming in at 8 points. Severely early doors yet for that, but good to see two wild players at the front there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's Kaprizov and Baldy right up there. Yeah, Eichel, Natchez and McKinnon as well. They're being a real nice tandem as well. Then you look at Nylander and Nyes as well. Another nice tandem. I think they've been. We've got some high scorers already, and I think we could be up for some people getting some absolute career years, I think.
Yeah. And then the surprise leader in top goal scorers, Dorofeyev with 5. Whether he keeps that up across the whole year, I'm a bit dubious, but could start for him for sure. But the one I'm wanting to speak to is obviously the Penalty Box Perspective Award for penalty minutes. Yeah, the clubhouse leader at the minute is Crevier with 19 minutes. Uyghur from the Flames at 18 minutes and Petrovic at 17 minutes. So, again, very early doors, but still a lot of time sat on the backsides.
Yeah, Louis Crevier stood up really well for one of his teammates the other day, getting in there on the fight. He's a big boy, as Louis Crevier, 6'7", I think he is, 6'8". Are we still allowed to make like 6'7" references, or is that passed us by now?
I think you have done.
But yeah, so some big numbers already on the defenseman.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of fun, that start. Obviously, we're not going to break it down and treat it seriously, but we can't be named the Penalty Box Perspective without seeing who sat next to us in the box.
Oh yeah. I think that pretty much wraps up week 1 coverage of the NHL. I absolutely love breaking down, each team each week, and this is going to be incredibly fun to do, and look and see how the season unfolds. And it'll be nice to kind of look back and see the trajectory that teams have gone on, either up or down. And really excited to see what the season brings. We've got some really exciting things in the pipeline coming up, and dead excited.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun. This is going to be our bread and butter, what we really doing this for, and I can't wait to keep going and see where we're at a few weeks down the line. We've got a lot more games under his belt. But yeah, do you want to lead us away? And
so I touched it at the start of the podcast, but you can get in touch with us and follow us on Instagram and X at the PBP Podcast. You can also get in touch with us on Gmail at penaltyboxperspective@gmail.com if you have any feedback, any comments, anything you want to feedback to us in relation to the show. As always, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please, any 5-star reviews, any feedback, anything that you can provide us is always incredibly helpful for us, especially now as the season's up and running, that we can try and push our way into the algorithm for other hockey fans. As always, thanks for being with us, and thanks for hopping on the ride.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time. Take care.